I'd love to just talk about the legality issues over this idea of the emergency. Is it correct that if the Supreme Court strikes this down, it may be a moot point in the sense that a lot of these tariffs can just be reissued under a different authority? And there's a follow up to that. What do you say to conservatives who are concerned about the emergency argument that a left wing president might harness and run with when they're in office?
Let's take it one at a time. And
Mhm.
so your first comment was, wouldn't the president just enact some other ability to tariff? And the question is, we don't know what the Supreme Court will come back with, and it's
Right.
not binary. It's not yes or no. There's just a lot of gray associated with it, and so we can't just count on the justices saying, okay, you can't tariff under this provision, but you really should tariff under this other provision. Moreover, if it was really another provision, for example, is that the president could enact what's considered Section 301, which
Mhm.
enables the president to have a tariff, but it's really after a long, drawn out investigation, and some of these take more than a year in order to effectuate and to put into place. And so it's not something that is a simple mechanism. And not to mention, if you're dealing with an emergency, which is what we think the situation we're in, then you want the ability to react fairly quickly. And so that's why we think IEPA really fits in terms of the action that the president is taking. And we think that, look, we didn't get to this point because we had fair trade to begin with. We got to this point because our trading partners were taking advantage of the unfettered access the United States was giving them to our markets. And from 2001 until today, what we're looking at is, some calculate, from a couple million all the way up into 5 million of lost manufactured jobs. And that was since China's ascension into the WTO. And so there's many, many instances, countless instances, where the United States had provided access to our markets with little to no tariffs. And then in turn, American companies were providing and paying tariffs in order to access their markets. And so we think that by having a regime and enabling a tariff regime, it really levels the playing field. And we think it will provide not only reduce the non-tariff barriers, but what we also think it'll do is it will slowly revert our country back to what we consider a production economy. And so when we have our economy that's really solely based on consumption, it's challenged, and it also drives up the debt, because in order to fund a consumption economy, you have to borrow money from foreign countries to fund that a consumption economy.